Howdy folks, Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilly here, taking a look at the detailed forecast as we head through the next couple of days, brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters and Remodeling. We've got a pretty active setup as we head through the next couple of days, and we'll start off with the Futurecast. We'll get right to the meat and potatoes here. We've got showers possible as we head through the day tomorrow, later in the day on Thursday. I think for the most part Thursday is going to be dry with a couple of high clouds. By about 8 or 9 o'clock, you can see maybe we start to get into a little bit of drizzle here and there. But for the most part, your Thursday is going to be dry and not bad. As we head through the morning on Friday, maybe a couple more showers swing through the area. This is just going to be regular rain and probably some rumbles of thunder. This is mostly going to be elevated stuff. So stuff that's based on what's happening higher up into the atmosphere, not what's based on what's happening down here at the ground. So this isn't going to be the tornado weather necessarily, but you're probably still going to see some heavy rain, probably some gusty wind. We can't rule out the possibility of some frequent lightning in some of these storms too. They may be kind of rowdy, they may be kind of loud, but for the most part they should be non-tornadic. You may catch a little bit of hail. We'll have to kind of wait and see. These are going to be pretty clustery though. This is along the warm front as it passes through. We will have a difference in wind direction and speed as we move up in the atmosphere, which is what you need for organized severe weather, but the rest of the ingredients that we're going to need for that are going to be not available for us, thank goodness. As we head through later in the evening, we'll continue to see rain passing through the area into the overnight hours, and by the time we get toward Saturday morning by about 5, 6, 7 o'clock, here's the line of showers and thunderstorms that's going to be pressing through the area. Out ahead of it, you see all the green that's happening here. We're going to have to wait and see if we actually can develop thunderstorms out ahead of the line. Right now, we can't rule it out, so it is technically in the forecast. However, the closer we get, the more information we're going to have access to, which allows us to figure out if we're actually going to see these thunderstorms break out ahead of the line, or if these are just going to be what we usually get around here in the wintertime, just regular instability showers. So you just get a little bit of rain and a rumble of thunder. That's about as bad as the weather gets out ahead of the front, because the capping inversion that's set up is in a place where it actually allows these little showers to develop, but not the big rowdy thunderstorms. At this point, we're also going to have wind out of the southeast flipping back around to the southwest aloft, which is going to give us that turning of wind with height, and it's going to be at a different wind speed as well. Down at the surface, we're going to be at about 15 miles an hour. Up at about 4,000 feet, we're going to be all the way up to near 60 to 70 miles an hour, and then as you get up aloft up to about 15,000 to 20,000 feet, also about 65 to 75 miles an hour. So we're really kicking those winds up, really turning them with height as the front approaches, but we may just not have any thunderstorms out ahead of the line that actually develop. And then the line of thunderstorms rolls through as we head between about 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., so kind of a midday type event here. And along this line, we may get some little curlicues in the line as it passes through, and we may see some brief and generally weaker tornadoes kind of embedded, as they say, within the line of thunderstorms. Notice that the wind speed and direction as you move up into the atmosphere as the front passes lines right up, and then we're just talking about straight line wind right along the front, unless you get into those areas where you end up with those embedded tornadoes right along the leading edge. Back and behind it, we do clear things out actually pretty quickly. I tend to think as we get into Saturday afternoon and evening, we'll probably start to dry things out. The SPC still has us pegged with an enhanced risk for severe weather across the area. A slight risk stretches all the way up into parts of southern Indiana and Ohio, through parts of Tennessee and Kentucky, and all the way back down to the Gulf Coast. But yeah, the enhanced risk is in here. We'll probably get pegged with a marginal risk tomorrow on the outskirts of that. It's going to be kind of a nasty day all across the South, so if you've got to travel for Saturday, maybe call ahead and make sure wherever it is that you're going knows that you're probably not going to get there on time, or maybe just leave a day earlier. In terms of the overall threats as we head through the day, between about 4 and 1, we're probably going to have to curtail we're going to have to snip that up a little bit. I tend to think now, with some of the latest data coming in, it may be a little bit closer to 6 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m. Right now, there's a slight risk for tornadoes and enhanced risk for wind. I think everybody gets wind out of this, folks. Then the hail threat's a little bit lower, but not zero. I think up to quarter-sized hail, and we may see some isolated, localized flooding. So, you see some ponding in your backyard, but your neighbor maybe not so much. 1 to 3 inches of rain as this line of thunderstorms rolls through isn't necessarily enough to be catastrophic flooding. However, I mean, it can still be super annoying flooding because you end up with ponding in your backyard or your front yard, water over the roads. So again, if you're out driving, keep that in mind, or if you have to travel, keep that in mind. There may be water over the roads in some places. I think everybody gets at least a 40-mile-an-hour couple gusts of wind as these line of thunderstorms move through and these storms pass on by. Because of the rain we got with the last event, the rain that we anticipate with this event, I tend to think that it's going to be reasonably easy to knock down trees. So it's not going to take much wind for trees to come down, which is why the wind threat is probably even a little bit higher than it would be with 70-mile-an-hour wind that we're accustomed to seeing with, you know, pretty significant severe weather as it passes through. Even if you only get a 30 to 40-mile-an-hour wind gust, you're still at risk of losing a tree on your property, given how wet the soil currently is. The tornado risk, a slight risk here. We can't rule out the possibility of a tornado or two across the area. That's not one of our main concerns with this go-around, but we can't rule it out. We also, given the environment, can't rule out, unfortunately, a stronger than EF2 tornado as well. So with the last go-around, a lot of people fresh in your minds, December 16th, that was a day where we were also saying we can't rule out the possibility for a stronger than EF2. We ended up with, I believe, 2 EF3s and 1 EF2 that day. It's a slightly different setup. That day ended up being a day where tornadoes were a concern, one of the main concerns, I should say. In this situation, tornadoes are not one of the main concerns. You can't rule it out. We're going to be in a situation where we can't rule it out, but as of right now, as of this recording, not a main concern. The wind is the main concern with this go-around. We ran the numbers on Carrie's stressometer, and I made mention of this last night at 10 o'clock. I kind of hinted at it at 6 and 6:30. The numbers came down yesterday based on when this thing was gliding through. I said, I think they'll be a little bit closer to a 5 as we head through the day tomorrow. And yeah, we're at a 501, and how we get here, like always, there's your equation. You can double check my numbers. I don't have an ego. Yeah, so 501, that actually converts back to somewhere between a slight risk and an enhanced risk from the SPC. So the SPC a little out ahead of, or a little more risk, the risk is a little bit higher, I should say, from the SPC than the direct numbers would suggest, and they do that based off of their experience. They're much smarter than I'll ever hope to be. So I kind of trust them. But do know that the numbers do back up at least a 5 on Carrie's stressometer here. So please do have a plan as we head through the day on Saturday. So there's a look at your detailed forecast for today. Again, brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters and Remodeling. This running through Saturday, so if you're making plans on Saturday, just make plans to maybe have to dodge a little bit of severe weather.